Hey, and welcome back to the second part of the review of the Samsung CF791, a 34-inch ultra-wide 1500R curved 3440 by 1440 100 Hz VA panel with quantum dot color technology. That's a lot of technical specs in one sentence, but there we go. And, well, as you've probably been able to see from the video title, this will be about my experience with the monitor and my personal preference for it or not. And, well, as you've been able to see from the title, why I'm going to return the monitor actually. So I want to start off with some good points, and then I'll discuss some bad points, and then I'll get to the reasons why I'm sending the monitor back. So to start off, the VA panel has a very nice contrast. You can clearly see that the contrast is higher than from an IPS panel if you're sitting right in front of the display. If you're sitting from an angle, some contrast and color shift occurs, but we'll discuss that later. Talking about the quantum dot colors, yes, they are great, but if you're used to an IPS panel with good colors, it's not going to knock your socks off. I'm sure it's great for a VA panel, and I would go as far as saying that it's maybe even better than my IPS screen, so that's something. But only if you're sitting right in front of it and you've set the correct color profile in Windows, and, well, you're used to bad color monitors, because yes, it looks awesome, but to say that it's the next revolutionary thing, maybe I'm just not seeing it. Another thing this monitor also does very well is the anti-glare coating. It's not glossy, but it's not very harshly or grainy anti-glare. I would actually go as far as to say that this is the best anti-glare layer I've ever seen. There's a window right in front of it, and it perfectly diffuses it. I guess I can still notice it's there, but compared to the glossy 27Q over there, it's a world of difference without degrading the image quality at all. So definitely a plus. Then the 100 Hz and fast pixel response is absolutely awesome. Gaming on this monitor is like you haven't before. I switched back to the crossover just to test, but switching back from 100 frames per second or hertz to 60, and the slower pixel shifts that the crossover has, it's just a world of difference. And I talk about gaming, but for me, for some reason, even with desktop work, I really, really love the smoothness of 100 Hz. And going back to the crossover with its slower pixel response, through which I can clearly see, and when you drag the window, there's just a lot more blur. And the choppiness of 60 Hz versus the 100 Hz, there's just no contest. I will even go as far as saying I will never buy a 60 Hz display again. Hope that says enough. So, while playing with the monitor, it's been behaving very well. I set it up to 100 Hz once, and it's worked ever since. No blanking, no flickering, no synchronization issues, no cable trouble, nothing. Plug it in, set it to 100 Hz, it pops up right away, no custom resolutions needed, and it just works. That is awesome. A great experience. What's also been good has been the built-in speakers. In my previous video I said that the Bose is 10 times better. It is, it has better mids, better highs, better lows, especially better lows. But as far as monitor speakers go, the Samsung does very good. I've never heard monitor or even built-in TV speakers that sound this good. So for daily normal usage, watching some YouTube videos, stuff like that, maybe even little music, it's okay. There's not a lot of bass, but the other parts are okay. I wouldn't go say that it can replace a Bluetooth speaker. I think a Bluetooth speaker of about $50 to $70 or euros, whatever, will sound a lot better. But just for normal usage, it's okay. So, a part you need to decide for yourself is the ultra-wide part. While I get it, I like the ultra-wide and I like the curve, for instance, it does come with a hefty price premium, because this monitor is 1,000 to 1,100 euros here in the Netherlands. And while you get a great monitor for that, if you let go of having to be an ultra-wide and the curvature, you can actually buy two monitors and create a multi-monitor setup. And yes, for gaming, the curve and the ultra-wide is awesome. And for desktop usage, it's nice too. But if I'd have to choose between having two monitors or having one that is ultra-wide and curved, I would go for the two monitors. So decide what your usage is. And, well, actually coming to the next part, this is also important. Since this is a VA panel, there is some to pretty medium, I don't know how to describe that, color shift and contrast shift when looking at an angle. And personally, as I said in the previous video, I'm a big fan of IPS panels, or I have been in the past. And I was hoping that the quantum dot technology would alleviate basically the issues I had with VA panels in the past. But maybe I'm misinformed or I didn't read up on it well enough. Quantum dot doesn't really alleviate the negative downsides of a VA panel. The color shift is still there, the contrast shift is still there, etc. And I also have some polarization stuff. Now, mind you, the display isn't doing anything wrong. These are issues I have with looking at the display. And for what it is, it's an awesome display and best in class, I have no doubt. And I've talked with friends and I've shown friends the monitors and they say, yeah, I can see the color shift and I guess I know what you're talking about, but I really couldn't be bothered less. IPS glow or backlight bleed is much worse in their opinion than the color shift or contrast shift is. While for me, I don't mind IPS glow or backlight bleed a little bit, but the color shift and the contrast shift from looking from an angle is, well, intolerable would be a big word, but it's noticeable and it trips me up. I keep looking at it and like, am I at a wrong angle? Is this meant to be this pale, or is it color shifted, or what's going on? And so this is very much a personal preference. Do you mind color shift or don't you? And if you don't, this monitor is excellent. If you do, this is still a VA monitor and you're going to be bothered by the color shift just like any other VA monitor out there. So it's hard to say. What I will say is the included stand and the height adjustment and the tilt that it has is excellent. It's a very sturdy, well, okay, if I shake the whole table, maybe not, but it's a very sturdy stand, and the amount of degree of flexibility you have with the stand and the way you can tilt it and still height adjust it, it works brilliantly. And especially, as you saw in the previous video, I played some games on it, and sitting in exactly the right spot, at the right distance, at the right height, it's awesome. So I would even go as far as saying that even though the color shift and contrast shift is there, and I would certainly take that into account if you're planning a multi-monitor setup, because in a multi-monitor setup, you're never sitting directly in front of one monitor, or most of the time you're not. So take that into account. But if you have a single monitor setup, go for it. So even with the color and contrast shift, I would probably keep the monitor. It's a personal thing, but as I said, with this monitor, it's the least I've ever seen it. But there's 2 clusters of dead or broken pixels on the monitor. And if I'm buying a monitor for €1,000 or 1,100 even, I don't expect to see dead pixels. And I'll try and show you some photos in an overlay of what I'm talking about, but there's a cluster on the right bottom part of the monitor and a cluster on the left bottom part of the monitor. And the left are broken, they're not completely dead, but on the right they're completely dead in any color. And they aren't stuck pixels, so they aren't lit, but they're just dead. They never give any color. So on normal backgrounds and in games, you probably wouldn't even notice, but if I'm paying €1,100, you better give me a perfect monitor. So with all that combined, I'm sending the monitor back because, well, that's my prerogative, and I will probably get something else. I'm not sure if it's going to be an IPS version of a 34-inch ultra-wide 4040p, 100Hz, etc. Because from what I've read, those have all kinds of issues. I might go for a Korean monitor again, because then I don't have to spend that much. I can get the specifications I desire. Or, well, I tried 4K televisions last year. That was a whole disaster on its own. I tried 4 different televisions and each one had a problem with it. If anyone's interested in my experience with that, let me know and I'll try and still make a video about that. Basically how I failed at upgrading to a 4K television. Or how the televisions failed me. Anyway, if you're a gamer, if you have one monitor, get this monitor. It is awesome. Easily the best gaming experience I've ever had. But if you're sensitive to color shift, contrast shift, you want to run a multi-monitor, etc., etc., this might not be the monitor for you. So that's my opinion. So I hope to catch you guys in a later video. Give it a like, give it a dislike, leave a comment if you have any questions, which I can answer without having the monitor. And hope to see you guys in the future. Bye.